Hi everyone, I'm Daniel Greene. When I decided to follow my inspiration for this interview series, I never imagined that I'd be speaking to my wonderful guest today. He's an author of 18 books with various publishers, including Hay House. He's been a regular on TV and radio, giving interviews on his specialised subjects of Taoism and energy healing. And to this end, he's facilitated the healing of, get this, in excess of 200,000 people. He's travelled the world positively impacting as many lives as possible. His talents know no bounds, and he's also a massively talented musician, a producer, which has a personal growth flavour to it, a DJ, and the list literally goes on. It's my pleasure to welcome Stephen Russell, also known as the one and only Barefoot Doctor. Doc, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. If I can just start asking about your own healing practice, as in helping others. You mentioned before helping up to 200,000 people. So how was that possible for you, and what sort of cases did you help people with?
Actually, I hate to be finicky, but it's actually over 1 million. We calculated it.
Wow.
A couple of years. I know, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad. I mean, I'm sure that's not remembering everybody. Not that matters, but it does in a way, because it's a bit like being a car mechanic. You get really quick at sussing out people, and knowing what to do. Of course, there is that. But all the while, I have to say, it's not really, I know it's me doing it. I am the instrument through which it will be delivered, but it definitely only works when I'm sort of getting the instructions from what feels like some kind of ancient group of people or a person behind me somewhere. From, maybe that's figurative, from the past. They're various, but generally in the form of an old Chinese master. And it's always been the same. It's like you take the pulse, because when you study Chinese medicine, the biggest part, they don't do this anymore because they don't know how to do it. But in the old days, the most powerful diagnostic tool is the pulse. And alas, they don't teach it anymore. I mean, that's something I want to do, is start teaching people how to do pulse diagnosis before it's lost. I mean to be presumptuous about it, but you would take the pulse and you would see what was going on, but you'd already be told by this inner prompting what was wrong with the person, and the pulse was just to verify. And then once you had ascertained the state that the person was in energetically, which organs were strong, which were weak, it rather than intellectually or rationally figure out a treatment, which is how people are taught to do it these days, the way I was taught to do it is you let the guide, if you want to call it that, tell you which points to use. So you take it in and you look at it and you think, wow, yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of doing that. Oh, I see why that works. Yeah. And you do those. If you do it like that, it always worked like a miracle. If I wasn't really doing that, if I was kind of going through the motions, because whatever, I'm human, you can't be consistent all the time on a psychic level, for sure, as you know.
Yes.
But if I was just going through the motions, it kind of did a little bit, but it never really did that kind of bang miracle. Wow, I'm totally better, thank you. It didn't do that one. Only if I was following the guide, and that applies to absolutely everything in my life, I have to say. But yeah, I mean, I studied in New Mexico under a most brilliant man called Daniel, he's the head of the, the president of the New Mexico Acupuncture Association, which is ironic because he was a Chinese hippie who went to New Mexico with the commune people when they were in the late 60s. He was from the Bay Area. And because he was a hippie, and that culture is a culture of sharing rather than the Oriental culture, which is one of more keeping it to yourself in a way, certainly in those days anyway. So I was really privileged to get amazing training with this guy. And but anyway, I already trained with R.D. Lang, who was an amazing psychotherapist, a healer of the greatest order. So I had, the basis of how to work with people. And plus, I'd already been training as a healer since I was 11 with a Japanese guy who taught me Aikido till I was 18. And my dad was a very lovely man. He used to help people a lot. That not as his job, but people always used to come to him to ask for advice about their life. And I love that about him. I used to watch that and think, oh, I want to be like that one day. So there was always that kind of feeling of wanting to do it. When I got back from New Mexico, honestly, I had nothing. I had no money at all. And people say, how are you going to make a living? Are you going to do it with this aquapuncture? That's what they used to call it. Like, because no one wants that. And I said, well, I think they will, because it's really powerful. No one had heard of it, really. And within 2 to 3 weeks, I had a raging practice, man. I was really busy. And then suddenly all these celebrities are coming to me, and then magazines are writing about me because I was treating celebrities and all the rest of it. Now that's noise, basically. Bless them all. And then that gave me the platform to be able to talk to the world about what I wanted to talk about. As I was saying very long-windedly, what I've always been interested in is how do you get this stuff and then give it to people so they can use it to heal themselves? Because, you know, I can't heal everybody, not one-on-one. And that's why about 18 years ago, the same voice, you know, said, all right, enough with this now. You have to stop it now. And just go full on into this kind of media ride. I call it a media ride, the ride of creativity. At that point, very involved with the media. And just go for it. It's an adventure. See what happens. It will take you somewhere you're going to like and not like and all the rest of it. And sure enough, that's what happened. I mean, and yeah, it was and is an amazing ride, I have to say. I hope that wasn't too long-winded an answer for you. I haven't spoken to anyone for about 4 days. I've been working on this music. I've literally only said about that much to anyone. So you're the first person I'm speaking to.
Oh,
sorry.
That's wonderful. I'm hearing you say some things for the first time, despite watching many interviews on YouTube, etc. No, that's wonderful. It's funny you said that you couldn't impact one-on-one the whole world, but you had a damn good go by the sound of it, you know, impacting 1 million people. Knowing a bit about your backstory as I do, you also healed yourself from cancer a number of years ago. I'd love you to talk a little bit about that, please, if you would.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suddenly got a blood clot, and my left leg swelled up really badly. It was actually because I caught pneumonia. I was on my way to the mountains in Wales to write. I had 3 days of really intense writing to do. I've been putting it off for ages, and it was like this major mission. All right, I'm going to do it. So I've got this barn I go to in Wales sometimes, and I went there. And while I was on the way, I knew I'd got pneumonia. I just could feel it in my life. It was going around at the time, viral. And I phoned up a friend of mine who works in the hospital. I said, "Man, you got to help me out here. You've got to send me some shit. I've really got to get on with this work." And they sent me antibiotics and steroids, which I've never taken before or since. And although they don't think that, I'm pretty sure it was the mix of those two that got the blood clot happening. Anyhow, I go to a friend's hospital, a hospital where a friend works in the emergency. So it's because it'd be quicker and easier that way. And the clot was so big that they were really alarmed. Because of my age, I'm now 63. I was, 59 then. They thought they'd better scan me. And they said that they found a tumor as big as a baseball field, what do you call it? A tennis court. That's it. No, they're a really big one in the belly, and that it was basically terminal, and I didn't have very much longer to live. And I didn't feel ill, man. I didn't have any symptoms other than this blood clot. Are you sure about that? I said, absolutely sure. Absolutely sure. Went through different tests, and it all, confirmed it. This was happening. So because of my training, I wasn't in resistance to the idea. I mean, dying felt actually quite a relief, because it was like, wow, you just have to do this one thing now, just die. You don't have to multitask anymore. You don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about the bank. You don't have to worry about the business. You don't have to worry about the website. You don't have to worry about anything. You just die, man. That's really easy. Oh, yeah, this will be all right. And I relaxed and didn't resist. And I've got this way of being, I'll tell you about after if you want, that enabled me to take the whole, the story of it with great equanimity. And who am I to argue with destiny? If destiny decrees that's when I'm going to go, I'm going to go. I remember thinking, wow, 59 is a bit young, isn't it? But I have done absolutely everything I've wanted to do. I mean, I definitely could taste more of each of the flavors that I've had, for sure, as much as I can get. But yeah, I've done it. I can't really complain. It's been an amazing story. Thank you for the story. And it was shortly while after that, it occurred to me, I was sitting there one day, very surrendered and everything. Well, man, you have healed so many people with cancer, terminal cancer, that, they've got better from. I'm not saying I have, but I conducted the healing that did it. They healed themselves, nature does it. that you should have a go at least. Just have a go. Use your own tools. I don't know. All right. So I sat, and honestly, in my recollection, it seems like if it was a minute, it's a lot. And you know the St. Andrew's Cross.
Yes.
Well, there's this technique where you visualize the four arms of the cross going down and out of you in to the corners. You know, like so you got the center of the cross is here, and then the bits go up like that and down, etc. You breathe in, and you breathe in white light, which is what you visualize. And as you breathe out, you transmit that light down the arms of the cross and out of you. So the light will go out through your hip bones and out through your shoulders. And it carries with it anything that doesn't need to be there, specifically for if it's your lungs or large intestine. But, you know, that's not actually that important. It's for anything. And I remember thinking this tumor was not an enemy. It was the Tao, God, if you want to call it that, in a bit of a twisted form, come to talk to me. And therefore, I had to honor it as my guest and be kind and polite and well-mannered to it, rather than in resistance to it and with antipathy towards it. So I said to it very respectfully, as the Tao, you know, I understand, you know, here you are, and I appreciate you coming to visit me, but if there's anywhere that you need to go more than this, I mean, you don't have to be at me. I don't need you here. I got the message. I mean, so, you know, if you want to go, you can go. And it really was with that level of grace. There was no get out, get out, get out. There was nothing like that, because I was already resigned to dying. And I did that and didn't think much of it. I didn't even go to, I wonder if that works or not. And it was only about a week after that a friend of mine phoned me and told me about this new treatment in Russia that I should go try it. I remembered, oh man, I've got a doctor and I've actually got health insurance. Go to your doctor in London and find out. And literally within 10 minutes of seeing him, I was with the top guy in that field in the country. I'd had about 10 minutes after that, I had all the scans and tests and everything, completely and absolutely all clear. Now, I have to say, I don't even know. The first guys might have been wrong, but they're friends of mine and they are top team. And they weren't. I don't think they were wrong. Personally, I don't like thinking about it too much because it scares me a bit. Like, woo. But, you know, that's the story. And I've been beautiful ever since. Well, no, I was pretty feeling beautiful before, but I'm getting stronger all the time. I do an hour and a half training every morning, no matter where I am in the world, no matter how little sleep I've got, no matter how much I've got to do that day. I'll get up as early as I need to, even if I only have 1 hour sleep, because the training is so important. Qigong, Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, White Crane, meditation, outside. And after that, and I make what I call the barefoot bomb. I've just had one now. I juice 4 apples, 4 fat carrots, 4 pears, maybe 3 pears, and a big fat clump of watercress. If I can get radishes, 4 or 5 of those as well, spice it up a bit. Then you have 3 or 4 glasses, that will make 3 or 4 glasses. And it's like liquid health. I just feel amazing after it. So that's what I do, you know, and it makes me feel, plus I'm really immature. So I kind of am like a little boy in the way I live and the way I only want to have fun. So that motivates me rather than having to get ahead or make money. My thing is I want to have fun. And I mean, at the deepest level, by creating amazing things to help people, by hanging out with lovely people and I do help people. I tend to be flown about the planet by this one or that one who need me around for a week or so, which is great because I'm in beautiful locations when it happens and so on. And I now help people like that, you know, I hate the word coaching, so naff. I mean, you know, yeah, mentoring. I hate that word as well. I hate these words get used and hijacked. That's what it is, like coaching and mentoring and a bit of healing, a bit of teaching. I'm like the spiritual minder for quite a few guys. And it is guys, actually. I don't know why it's all just guys, but it is. And which suits me fine. And yeah, that's my life, making music and helping a few strange people, running a website that, you know, gives information to millions of people and whatever. And it's quite good fun, I have to tell you. I love it. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I can imagine how you'd be a bit sort of, you know, a certain element of fear talking about cancer, but you said something.
You want to get back to that one? I'd run away from it already, man. You brought me back. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
No, sorry. It's just a reframe that you made, that it has something to teach us and it's there for us. not against us. And you made that distinction. And I think if a lot of people could recognise that, it's a cry from your body to say, look, you know, you need to address something, either let something go or make some changes in your life. You speak about juicing in the morning, and you certainly put my regime to shame in that respect. But I just want to sort of, you know, say that to the viewers at home. If you know anybody who is suffering, or if you are yourself, then there's another way. You know, you don't have to believe a doctor who says you've got this long or that long. Just, you know, so I'm sorry to bring that up again, but I just wanted to make that distinction, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I do help a lot of people with cancer. I'd say that in a very simplistic way of putting it, the medical profession is there to fix people, and they do a damn good job of it when they can. The healing side of it is different. The sort of stuff I do, that's the healing. And I feel that the person has to attend to both levels. First, you've got to fix it. You know, if there's raging cancer, you need chemo. You have the chemo because you've got to get over that. You've got to get it under control first. That's important. You know, as an expedient, if that's what they tell you, that's what you've got to do. That's what you do initially. But then at the same time, you've got to attend to the actual healing, as in remaking yourself whole again. And, you know, the cannabis oil is good, although unfortunately it's illegal in a lot of countries still, because you do need that THC content in it for it to really work with the CBD is good, but it doesn't actually work on the cancer level, as not nearly as well as the THC stuff does. But that's important to remember. Reishi mushrooms are really, really important. They're magic. I don't know what they do or how they work, but those things are pure magic. I could go on. Pau d'Arco, the Brazilian rainforest tree bark, is also pure magic. The piece of the arc it needs. And if you take that every day, it really, really helps. Now, there are others. I could go on. But the other thing is, with any kind of condition, is movement and exercise done intelligently, like Qigong, which I can't, yoga as well, but I think Qigong for me, it's the one. If it's done properly, every day, even especially when ill, just very gently, it makes so much difference to strengthen the system. Like, I'll show you what I mean. Like, look, I'm sitting here, I'm sitting here now, and I'm making a big round shape with my arm like there. I would do it with the other arm, I'm holding the phone, right? And I can do that, and then I can put strength into it. So like, I'm just soft, and then I put strength into it, just a little bit. You put a bit of form into the movement. You see that bit of dynamic strength, and it's nothing. I could be sitting on a plane or a train or a car or whatever in it for a moment and just fill up. I fill up my body with strength. You do that, not by straining, just gently. You do it 3 times in a row, and you do that a few times a day. The difference in how it makes you feel, you get instant strength from it. So these things are really, really important. And I'll shut up and let you ask me another question.
No, that's fascinating. That's funny. I'm just following your lead. Excuse me, and I can actually feel shifts. I can feel energy coming into my body. Admittedly, I am sensitive to energy like yourself, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Doc. I'd love you to, having watched many of your interviews, you often state that you don't have a script, you don't have an idea what you're going to talk about. You know, to that end, you didn't really know what I was going to ask you today. You just show up, and I'd love you to talk about how you do that. Do you? Well, I don't want to put words into your mouth. How can you sort of achieve that? What is it that's going on?
I think fundamentally, you and I, say we didn't meet this way, but we'd met in a bar, a pub, cafe, whatever. You know, the usual cliche where you meet people thing. Say you and I met in a place, and we just got to talking to each other. We feel into each other, and if we had a resonance, which we do appear to have, or I feel we have, we would both vibe on that, and a conversation would naturally occur. And you might ask me questions, and I would be very happy to answer them. Just as I'd ask you questions, you'd be very happy to, without having to have a script to come off. I just would talk from my heart, as would you. And that's what I do. I mean, I just feel that everybody is potentially my family. Well, everyone is my family. And, you know, if I like the person I'm talking to, why would I not just talk to them? So, like, if I've got a group of people, I'm doing a talk, you know, public speaking with it, they're all my family. So yeah, this is the big one. Rather than worry what the other person's going to think of me, or rather than worry how I'm going to be judged, which is the narcissistic viewpoint, what I will be concerned about is what do I have to give to the other? What's my gift to this group, to you, to the people who might watch this? What's my gift? What do I want to leave you with? And in this instance, for example, it's feeling warm and nurtured and encouraged, and feeling like life is beautiful, even with all its difficulties, and especially with all its difficulties even. And I'm going to make the best of it and have a great time. That would be, and that's my intention. And so with that as my focus, it takes me away from thinking about caring even like what people are going to think of me or not. And then also practice, of course, as with anything, you know, the more you get used to doing something, the easier it goes. I have done scripted stuff. I mean, I wished I had done scripted stuff. Sometimes, like on that TED talk. But honestly, I mean, because I was jumbled when I got that. It was a bit of a wasted opportunity. Had I thought about it for 5 seconds beforehand, it might have actually come out better. I don't know. But I have done scripted talks, delivered them word perfect, and done a great performance, and come out the other end thinking, well, yeah, well, what's the point of that? Because you're not an actor. I mean, that's not what you're here to do. Yeah. So you did a great performance. So what? I didn't really feel that I actually gave from my soul. But the people loved it, of course, because they do. That's what we do. We do realize when something's a bit fake, but it's meant to be like that. So we accept it. Great performance. Oh, that was wonderful. But when it's from the soul, we really feel it, and that's what's important to me. And you can't really script that, can you?
No, that's true. The TED talk you mentioned, I watched it last night. I'd seen it before, but I loved it. And I think the only thing at the end was I just wanted it to go on for longer. I wish it's been given twice, 3, 4 times the length of time to talk. And I know that people in the comments underneath were seeing similar. You know, oh, why didn't they give them longer? You know, 70 minutes just went like that. But yeah, I love the answer you've given. It's so grounded. Some people will talk about following consciousness, streams of consciousness, or tuning into the audience to see what they want. And you've just taken the woo-woo, the fluffy aspect out of it, and just given a beautiful, grounded answer, which I love. Thank you.
You know what the trouble with that TED talk was? They give you a counter. There's this digital counter, quite a big one, that's facing you when you're on the stage that has a countdown from 18. Well, they didn't tell me it was a countdown. I didn't notice it was starting at 18. So I'm rabbiting away, as you can see, I'm quite prone to do. And I see 4. It's got 4 minutes on it. And I think, wow, brilliant. I've only done 4 minutes. I've got the whole. And actually, it turned out it was the other way around. And I only have 4 minutes left. Suddenly realized at 3 minutes. Oh, no. So I had to crack. I didn't even start talking about what I came to talk about. Until anyway, it's all gone now, except on the video is always going to be there.
Yeah, thank you. What I want to ask you about next is we've been talking off camera all week, you know, via email. Something that's been very topical is the subject of celebrity. It's obviously something that you've experienced, lived, etc. And it can be a barrier because I so nearly didn't reach out to you, thinking, who am I to reach out to a celebrity? And I'm so glad that I did. And I'd love you to speak about the illusion of celebrity that you call it. Could you share something about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the weird irony of it, because if I didn't have had that, should we call it profile, to take all the steam out of it, you wouldn't have known to get in touch with me. We wouldn't be connecting like this. So that was important. And in fact, that's what it all came from. I remember like Handbook for the Urban Warrior, my first book. Got the book deal, and I went to see the publishers, and this smarmy sales guy said to me, so, well done, but how are you going to sell the book? I said, what do you mean, how am I going to? I wrote the book. What do you mean sell it? You sell the book, don't you? You're the publisher. In my naivety, thinking publishers actually did things.
Yeah.
No, we don't sell books. What do you sell then? Like used cars, that's what you look like. What do you sell? And the guy goes, we get it on the shelves for you, but you've got to sell it. You've got to come up with a story. He didn't say it compassionately like that. So I think, well, fuck you, buddy. Okay, I'll show you how I'm going to sell this book. And I just came out with all these crazy ideas. That's why the perfume thing happened, because I'd been making the oil, and I still do, and wearing it. And I thought, you know what, let's make that into a perfume. And on the box, there'll be a website address, and they'll go, when they're buying books at Heathrow Airport, they'll think, oh, or rather, when they buy their perfume, they'll go, "Oh, this is like interesting," and I'll go and see what the book's all about. It was a bit naive, actually, as a concept. But anyway, the amount of thrust that I gave it, I went around the country, around the UK, doing a tour called Soul Jam with a DJ called Carlos Fandango. It was brilliant. And I wasn't doing readings. I was just rabbiting, like you can see it at the end. I'll hold the book up, Handbook of the Urban Warrior. This is where it all comes from, guys. We did the universities, we did Newcastle, we did everywhere. And it really worked. And then Danny Rampling picked it up on Radio 1. Just by chance. It wasn't, that was proper fortuitous serendipity. He started raving about it. And that's what made it take off. But I needed it to take off, not because I wanted to be famous. To the contrary, I just needed the profile. Otherwise, people wouldn't know the book was there. And then what would be the point of it all? What comes with that, though, is this mystification. So, especially if you're on television a bit, people regard you as something other than human. There is this you're slightly elevated in another realm, not quite human. I mean, we've been trying to deconstruct it, haven't we, in our society, with the kind of overexposure of the whole celebrity thing. And now, because of the Facebook phenomenon, like everyone's a celebrity, if you like. But back then, before that all had happened, it still had, and it still does, carry a mystique to it. So I'd be walking down a street in London, thinking about whatever I was thinking about, as we do. And somebody would just start, "Oh, Barefoot." And I'm like, "What?" And Barefoot. "Oh, yeah, man." And I'm thinking, "Do I know this guy?" And I just wanted to say, "You're amazing. Thank you." And so, thank you. It's really lovely of you to say. And then I can't just go, "Well, I'm a celebrity. You're just a normal person. So I've got to go. You're not important enough for me." It's a person. I want to connect with them. So I shake hands. "What's your name?" "My name's Stephen," blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. And they don't like that. They didn't like it. People didn't want me to be that. They wanted me to play this stupid nonsense of being more than a human. I'd be sitting on a tube train in London, which is something I try not to do very often. Anyway, but I'm sitting there and it's in the rush hour. Again, I rarely ever do that. I don't know why I was on a tube train in the rush hour. And this, how everyone's really quiet and it's crowded. This guy leans forward, really creepy guy. He goes, "Do you think that the Tao is the same as God?" This is 9 o'clock in the morning in this crowd. "Why are you asking me that?" And "Oh yeah, I'm that guy, aren't I? I forgot." And I go, "Well, I don't know what you think," because everyone's looking. Do you know what I mean? Oh, it was so funny. This used to happen a lot. Or you'd be in Spain and you'd be like sitting on a beach or something, having a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and someone would start smiling at you, and they go, "You're the Barefoot Doctor." Right? So wherever you are on duty. You cannot just be a goon. You can't be ridiculous. You can't misbehave. You can't do anything because people are watching you. And I love having contact with people. I always have done. There's always been a lot of eye contact for me with people, men and women. It's not just flirting. It's just I love people, And then what was happening is it would be, "Are they smiling at me because of that?" Or, that's a celebrity smile, isn't it? The celebrity recognition smile. Fuck, here we go again. And this would happen a lot, and I didn't like it, man. It's actually very irritating. And the worst part of it is, apart from the irritating, that's me being a sport brat saying that, but the hardest bit is you've got to get through this strange layer of projection that someone will put on you to connect with them. And I do want to connect with people. It's what we're here for. As a healer, if I can help, I'll help. But it's very difficult to help when people are looking at you with starry eyes, that you're some kind of king or queen or whatever it is. So yeah, I then spent concertedly. I actually made the decision. It was one day after being driven back in a fancy limousine after doing a big talk to some sales group. They paid me a load of money for doing 10 minutes of talking, and I sat down. "Oh, well done, mate. You're doing really." This was, I don't know, about 2004. I'm sitting there going, "You're very clever. Look what you've done. You've done it. You followed the instructions. You've got the profile sorted out. People know who you are. You're selling your stuff. You're getting the message out. Really, really good. Well, what were you doing it for? What was the message?" And I'd forgotten. I'd completely forgotten what the message was. What was I doing this all for? It wasn't just to be some media clown. Well, what is it? And I couldn't remember. I thought, "It's the Tao, isn't it?" And I thought, "Oh, that's a bit dull." "Oh, no, man. This has gone all too far now. Time to dismantle." or it's going to dismantle you. And then my ego part went, no, 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 no. It'll be fine. Just dismantle it, because otherwise it's going to dismantle you. You can have all the money, you can have all the noise, but you won't have yourself, which you want. I thought, okay, all right, dismantle. And honestly, then proceeded to happen a series of the most absurd, unlikely events that no Hollywood studio would ever pass for a storyline. And things started changing and collapsing and doing this and doing that. But, you know, the basic core of it, which actually is the website, if you want to be practical about it, has grown and grown and grown. So my reach to people, it continues to be strong and growing, thank goodness, because I love to connect. What else I want to do with myself? But without all the media noise, I just don't engage with the mainstream media anymore. I won't. I just don't want it. It's like, for what? You just become part of that smelly noise. And I don't want it. And it's really nice now. I walk down the street and people don't look at me anymore very much, occasionally a little bit, because I haven't been on TV for ages. So, what a relief. And one of my greatest role models is a man called Raja Ram. I probably shouldn't have said his name, considering what I'm going to say. He's the godfather of the trance scene, trance music, dance music scene.
Oh, yes.
77. He's the guy that invented it along with Goa Gill. They invented the music in Goa back in the late 80s. And he's amazing. 77. He's one of the highest paid DJs on the planet. Travels all around the world, a different continent every weekend, playing events to no less than 20,000 kids. It's not about old people like him. 20,000 kids at a time. Brazil, India, Mexico, wherever. And nobody knows outside of the trance scene who he is. Nobody has a clue. So he walks down the street completely anonymous, and yet in his world, he's like a super lord. And I mean, that is the magic. If I can ever attain to such mastery, it would be amazing. We've got to, I have to remain underground, so to speak, because the other way doesn't. I just don't have the DNA for it, really, or it for me.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sure a lot of other famous people, like musicians, that's been an issue for them as well. And you know, you read about isolation, etc. I just want to, before go on, you've mentioned your website a couple of times.
Yeah.
But for those watching, it's obviously www.barefootdoctorglobal.com.
Yeah, thank you.
There's lots of great stuff on there. You have an inner circle going on, and you have some videos on there that you've got a reset technique, which can obviously bring you back into balance if you're feeling out of whack, etc. So I just wanted to make reference, because as I see you reference it, so it's only fair to tell people where it is and to go and check it out. We'll obviously put links on when we. Sorry.
Sorry. No, also, yeah, I was going to say, because really, I think the main purpose and value of it is the trainings, because it's like a school, because it's got, I don't know how many, I think it's 30 or 40 video-based trainings in different aspects of Taoist practice. So for that, I think it's a good resource if you're into Taoism and want to explore it in a funky, fun way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I recommend people go and checking that out for sure. You've obviously had a full, exciting life, and still continue to be following your passions and your desires. I'm sure there was times though when you didn't feel, you may have felt blocked or full of self-doubts, etc. So I'm wondering how you've overcome self-doubts, limiting beliefs, paradigms, etc., to just go on and keep achieving and keep following your dreams. And could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Well, once it becomes clear, I suppose, that you've got no choice because you're not going to get any other kind of employment, so you kind of got to go with it. That takes quite a lot of the sting out of it, because the other thing, I miss little things that people say along the way. Now, I remember a singing teacher of mine. He was a great one, and the band I had, which was an amazing band, had guys from Van Morrison. It was really like top notch. And just as we were about to get the record deal, my manager, who's also a very close friend, topped himself, and that was the end of that, really, because I was too slayed by that to get on, But I went to him and I said, man, it's so wow, the amount of work I put into this. I wow, and it's so difficult. Why is this all happening? He said, look, you're a musician. Are you going to stop making music? I said, no. He said, well, then that's it. You're just going to carry on, right? And yeah, that's true. And it's the same as being the healer and being everything else. It's what you're going to do. The Tao is natural. Everybody has it. It's because we're programmed to be the same or want to be the same as everybody else, even though we want to be different too. We want to fit in. We have to be accepted by the herd. If we aren't accepted anyway, we're probably going to die, really. So we have to, kind of try and fit in a way. And because if you're going quite clearly against the grain and doing something that isn't conventional, it's natural to be filled with doubts because there's no sort of handrail or guidance to hold on to. And then this forces you into your relationship with the big one, with the Tao, whatever you want to call it, your God, your innermost self. It forces you into that relationship, and you have to start talking to that and letting it talk back to you and reassure you. I know this is all really just flam, really. Let me give you the real technique. It's really important. This is if everything I've ever learned or kind of grokked, as it were, this is the most important thing. You have this whole theatre of being human going on in the front of your body and the front of your brain. The way you perceive and therefore experience the world is really only a series of descriptions that you're giving it. So your sense organs come in with all the information. You then synthesize that information and slot it into a sort of a model that you created to make sense of it. So you'll describe reality in a certain way to yourself. You'll then predict based on that what might happen as a result. And you'll also evaluate based on that how likely you are to succeed, as in, what's your position in the game. And which is all fine. That's what we all do. However, it's all subjective and it's mostly imaginary because we don't have all the coordinates to hand to make any valid judgments, really. So we have this whole scenario about the world, which we think is the world, but isn't. It's just our scenario about it, going on in the prefrontal lobes. And it's the language part of the brain. It's also the part of the brain that's very concerned with what other people think of us. It's the most recent part of the brain to develop. It's the only thing that really differentiated Homo sapiens from the other homos. It was this ability to think fictively, to think in stories, to make up stories and so on, that enabled us to band together in larger groups than, say, the 150 that we could normally manage to be with otherwise. And because we could band together in large groups, we could conquer smaller, less organized groups. And so we took over. Because we can believe in this, we can believe in kings and queens and religions and countries and laws and states and continents and all other nonsense, because all these things are fabrications. None of them are primordially so. The universe wasn't created with religion and politics and countries and stuff in it. It didn't do all that. We did that. That's our description of it all. However much you subscribe to it, and good luck to you if you do, but it is only about a description. And it requires belief, which is about jumping to conclusions without having all the information to make a decision yet. So there's this whole kind of syndrome of being a human being, which goes on in the front of the body. It's the front of the brain is where we tell the stories, and then the solar plexus, the top of the stomach area, is where we process it, or rather react to that story emotionally. So we get tense in the belly, we get tense in the chest. That squeezes energy more into the front of the brain, which makes it worry even faster. And we get caught in the story. We forget that we have a back. We just remember that all we remember is that we've got this front because it's so compelling, so noisy. Wow, the world, it's so much. I've got to do this, got to do that, I've got to keep up, don't get caught, do this, do that. And it's all about that human drama which goes on in the front of us. The back of us, on the other hand, is a solid, relatively speaking, strong, invulnerable place where nothing is going on very much. The front is noisy. It's got all the noise of the brain, of the emotions. It's got the noise of the organs working and so on. And it's vulnerable. It's soft and open and vulnerable, therefore insecure. When we're in the front, when we get pulled into the front and we stay there, we become like the environment. We become insecure. We become noisy and so on. The back, however, is secure. There's nothing going on there. The spine is the strongest part of the body, so that's in your back. The muscles either side of it, the strongest muscles, that's in your back. There's nothing much else going on there. It's a little vulnerable around the kidneys and the back of the neck, but otherwise very strong. So when you learn to sit in the back of you, you also feel strong and silent and steady and still, just like the back does relative to the front. And the more you can learn to sit back and have your mind retracted into the rear brain, and you observe through the eyes, which become just portholes in the front, rather than be all up in the front, the more of a view you have. It's like when you drive in a car. When you learn to sit back, you get a much broader vista of the road and so on than when you're leaning up against the windscreen. It's the same thing. You learn to sit back like a racing driver in your bucket seat inside your body. And from there, you're in command of all the noise in the front of you. So when you see self-doubt coming up, which it inevitably will, the person that you've created since you were born, this art form that sits in the front of you, is definitely going to react with self-doubt to new situations, challenges, and so on. Rather than go, oh God, I'm filled with doubt, what do? You sitting in the back and you go, so there is self-doubt. Curious, interesting, there is self-doubt. So what do I want instead? Well, what do I want to be the pervading kind of theme in here? Do I want self-doubt to take me over? It's like, no, I think what I want to have is kind of quiet confidence and trust in this process. All right, well, that's my intention then. And you carry on. But you can't do that if you're in the front of your body because you're caught in the noise. So the art is learning to sit back and field whatever comes up in the front of you. That's how I got through that cancer situation, rather than be in the drama, which would have been, oh God, I'm dying. It's to go in the back behind it. And then it's like, oh, bless this person, this creation of mine, going through this. And, you know, well, if it's time to go, then it's time to go. But you know, I'm watching it from the back, and it's all right. There's no fear, there's no pain, there's nothing when you sit in the back. And I've taught this to people in mental institutions, dangerous psychotics, so-called, and paranoid schizophrenics, and any diagnosis you want to give, manic depressive, everything. I have taught this technique to people, and it's sorted them out. I mean, really, when you learn to sit in your back, most of the time, you stop being prey to the drama of being human. You love it still, you can enjoy it, but you're not caught in it. You no longer feel you've got to rush to keep up. You no longer fear that thing of missing out. You no longer feel that you're waiting for something. Suddenly you've arrived in your back and everything is beautiful right here, right now. Stops you projecting in the future, stops you wondering what's going to happen in the future. You just sit back and you have intentions and you let go and enjoy being here. In a nutshell, that's the greatest kind of gift I really have for anyone, I think.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I think I'd be doing those watching a disservice if I didn't actually ask you, because you have a technique, don't you, so you can actually access the sitting in the back that you mentioned. Is there something you can share, Doc, that'll help people to access that area, please?
Well, I mean, you know, these are just depending on your mood. And they are only little devices, because first you've got to remember that, you know, if I said to you, I'd like you to put your awareness in your left elbow and imagine that you can actually be inside your left elbow as a little micro version of you, and you're feeling what's going on in your left elbow from there. You can probably more or less get a glimpse of that.
Yes.
It's the same with the back. It's your back. So you can, you know, let me first say that when you are dancing and you've let go, or when you're singing and you've let go, or when you're praying and you've let go, or meditating and you've let go, whenever you get into that space where you've really, even when you're drunk and hanging with people having fun, you know, there's that moment where you've let go of everything and everything feels amazing. Oh, this is what we do it all for. Well, at that time you'll be in your back. That's when you're sitting back. You've stopped being in the front for whatever combination of reasons, for long enough to take full occupancy of the whole sort of arena. So what this Taoist technique is, just shortcuts all that. So you can be in the zone, so to speak, all the time if you just go into your back. You start off by going in your back, and then it triggers you into a wonderful state. It comes from the martial arts, where you've got to put your back into a blow, because if you don't put your back into it, you've got no force there unless you've got very, very strong arms. If you want to prevail in a fight, you've got to put your back into it. So because that's where your strength comes from. So this is really just that, putting your back into being here from moment to moment. The techniques are as follows. One, you breathe in, and you've imagined that you're breathing kind of a wall of white light and all through the whole of the front of your body and face. You're just breathing in this white light all the way into the back of you. And then you breathe out, and as you breathe out, it's like the out breath pushes you back into the white light. So you breathe in, and you fill up the whole kind of arena behind you with this bright white light. And as you breathe out, it kind of makes you sink backwards into the light. That's one. Another one, you imagine that someone has come up behind you, and they're like a powerful being that can get inside of you, and they grab your presence and they yank you backwards really hard like that, so that you find yourself back there. Another one is you have an industrial strength vacuum cleaner cylinder tube thing on your back, and they turn it on, it sucks you into your back. Another one is that in the back of the head, if you push you lengthen your spine, you bring your chin in a bit, and you push the back of the neck backwards. So you the back of your head. When you do that, that brings you back into the back.
It does, yes, I like that.
You like that? It's basically, I'm thinking what it is you start off by getting your mind, feeling your mind at the back of your skull, because that's kind of the easiest. And the next thing, you feel where your kidneys are in the lower back, and you convex your back, you let it bow backwards, and you just allow your kidneys to settle in your towards the back, and that will bring you back as well. If I had about an hour with the person, I could help them, but there are these just hints really, and I'm certainly happy to come do more any time, but that's all I can think of right now.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. That's extremely useful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You've been extremely grateful with your time as well. If we could just finish off on even more inspiration. I know you've mentioned in other interviews, hearing a voice, sometimes it guides you, or sometimes it pulls you out of dangerous situations. But I think ultimately it's, my way of thinking is it's like your guiding light, your inner compass. And
yeah.
I'd like you to talk about how we all have access to this, to our own innate guidance, or we all have our own important journey, to help others on this planet. So,
well, could I start by saying that if we would strip it of all mystical association just for now, because that's a personal issue. If you want to, attach any picture to it, it's each of our business to do that. But let's just bring it down to this sort of nub. Let's just say that your subconscious mind is all powerful and all knowing, which it is. It's omniscient. Your subconscious mind, all of our subconscious minds, are receiving all the information that ever was, is, or will be throughout time and space without limit. So right now, without realizing it, your subconscious mind has already calculated the most recent gravitational flux between Saturn and Jupiter, for example. And it does it. I saw it in practice because the Native Americans whom I used to live, Sonny Spruce taught me how to talk to or get the sky to talk to me, tell me what the weather was going to do. Which whenever I do it, I know exactly what the weather's going to do up to maybe 4 or 5 days in advance. Never goes wrong. That's because, and it's not that the sky is really talking to me, or maybe it is, but what it is my subconscious mind can calculate. And the conscious mind limits that all down, that information, so what will fit in the story that you're telling yourself about the world. The idea is that if you learn to broaden the forehead, actually, even in a physical way, you broaden the temples out and let go here. So you kind of broaden the parameters of the description that you've got about reality. You're able to see far more of the spectrum of light and hear the sound, which gives you the information if you want it. And that's what psychic power is, really. It's just you're seeing more of the spectrum of information. And the subconscious, as I said, it knows absolutely everything. I mean, look, I can tap which is half of a sort of samba pattern, because I've only got my 2 fingers there. And I couldn't count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I just wouldn't do. But listen, I mean, I can't. How do you hold a phone? Am I still with you? Because I just seem to cut myself out.
I can still hear you, Doc, here.
Yeah. Like, if I put that here, yeah. That would be impossible for me to count. That's just the basic, what do you call it? I could never count that out, but my subconscious mind does that no problem at all. Call it feel, call it drumming feel if you want, but it's just the subconscious mind counting very, 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 very quickly, and that's nothing compared to what it's doing all the time. So you learn to, that's where what you access in the back brain. When you sink your mind into the back brain, you're at one with that subconscious bit. And the story level is all just going on in the forebrain. And the more you do that, the more that it will talk to you. I mean, you can ask it. You say, hey, show me what to do here. Take over. And that's what I do all the time. Just take over. Show me what to do. And it will prompt you. You'll get an instinct, a feeling. Oh, I must make a cup of tea. And you spill the cup. Oh, silly man, why'd you spill it? And then you bend down. And there's the thing you were looking for all day yesterday. It's that sort of stuff. If you learn to follow the impulses, you have to be prepared to be a bit of a goon, because I am quite a lot of the time, because you slip over, you trip over, you make mistakes and all the rest of it. But by following the impulses, rather than going from some sort of rational dictate, the magic unfolds remarkably. And it's the same if you're healing somebody, you have to say, okay, show me what's wrong with them here. Show me what to do. And then you have to be in the back and be empty, and it will start prompting you, it will show you. And it's a skill, I suppose, being able to discern the messages coming through. But, that's no different from being able to learn to read or whatever. You just learn to pick up the signals, just a bit of practice. Is that a good answer? Is that clear enough?
That's a brilliant answer. I love that. I'm absolutely buzzing talking to you, hearing you speak. It's been a fantastic experience.
Yeah, me too. You're very kind and generous. Thank you.
Likewise. I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts for our viewers before we bring this amazing interview to a close.
Well, you had mentioned something before we started about maybe you're going to ask me what I felt about humanity at large right now.
Yes, I'd love to hear about that, yes.
Well, I mean, I would never presume to predict anything. I do have a sense that we have passed a major danger point. I mean, look, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. However, I think that last year, the year before, was a very dangerous time. And I feel that for now, we've passed the danger, that we're about to start to grow again. And when I say grow again, there was this beautiful movement that was happening up until the millennium, the global consciousness spreading. And unfortunately, the whole kind of yoga, meditation, new age, alternative stuff became fashionable. And whenever anything becomes fashionable, it will always go out of fashion. There'll always be people who want to knock it away, which is what happened, because they're threatened, their profits are threatened or whatever. And so you've had this close down. It's like the dark force got in and the whole thing closed down from the millennium onwards. My hunch is, maybe it's wishful thinking, but it's my hunch very strongly, that we've passed the midpoint of that cycle, and we're going to start to see it come back again. That beautiful enlightenment that was occurring, which I thought in my naivety was there to stay, the age of Aquarius. I feel that maybe now it's coming. I do think we have a chance. So, although it doesn't look like it, because the public conversation is quite stridently virulent, anti this, anti that, don't say this, don't say that. I feel that we're going to start seeing more tolerance growing, more acceptance of each other again, more intelligent communication like we were having, rather than this absurd kind of headline speech, this ridiculously ignorant, stupid way of like kind of limiting reality to the daft headlines that everybody thinks in or seems to think in. The main thing, though, my main thing is what I want to see. I want to see all that, do everything I can to make that happen. Hope many of you would join me in that, just in the intention. But what really, my main focus right now has been the women and the men. Having always been a staunch equalitist, I've always been into equality. When I had a gang as a kid, I was like 5-year-old, 6-year-old. there were two girls in it, and if any of the guys ever said, no, they're just girls, it was like, never. They have equal rights with all the guys. It always was like that. I wouldn't call that feminism, because that would be like saying sticking up for men's right would be masculinism, which is absurd. I feel that we want equality, do we not? And that we're achieving it really well. So I'm very, very happy to see that. I want the women to take over. I said this for years. The only chance we've got as a species now is if the women, with their great sense, take over the show. However, not against the men, not to knock the guys out of the way so they can do it. For us men to support the women doing that job. And when I say the women, I've got many women friends who are the most beautiful women, the most well-rounded, kind, developed people who have such a poise and they're so admirable. And I so love sitting with them. And it's these women that I wish to be the ones to take over the show, the ones with the great wisdom and the equanimous hearts and the compassion and the kindness. And, that's what I would like to see happening at the moment. Quite naturally, of course, any of the women that are getting in a position of power, they have to be strident to sort of play the game with the guys. I get that, but I want to see that change. I want to see us become friends again, because it really hurts me when I see the women and the men are not friends. This is terrible. This is the basic kind of fabric of society. We need to work together, us women and us men. I say us women. The key, this is the last thing, the key is, rather than thinking, I'm a man, you're a woman, therefore we're different. I think we are not different. We're people. We all have the same ecosphere. We all have fear. We all have hopes. We all have insecurities. We all have our strengths. We have our weakness. We have all the same. Everybody is the same in that respect. Yeah, of course, one man will operate differently from another man, just as that man will operate differently from a woman. But the woman will operate differently from another woman, and so on and so on and so on. Of course, we have biological differences, but so what? The fact is, we are basically all humans, so we can have compassion for each other on that level. And if we stop seeing each other as different, but as the same, just presenting in a different way, then I think we'll start to have the basis of the healing that we really need. I really want us to be, to heal that. I don't want the girls and the guys to be loggerheads. Let us become friends again. Girls, please. That's it.
I love that. You speak so much sense, and it feels right. And I kind of got a sense, so even though I couldn't articulate it like you just did, that the way over the worst patch, things were looking very precarious for a long time with World War III and so on. But I feel like we've surmounted that, and we're hopefully getting back on track, like you've just mentioned. So,
may it be so. Good saying it to you, because I think that makes it happen. That's the magic, isn't
it? Yeah, that's right. I just want to thank the Barefoot Doctor for sharing his amazing experiences and techniques, and just for being so generous with his time. I want you to head over to barefootdoctorglobal.com, check out his website. I think you see there's some amazing stuff, amazing content on there. And thank you all at home for watching. Can't wait to release this in due course, and speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, man.